Hey guys, it's Avondale, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Walls, where I take you behind the walls of the Knockscrew Game Show. I'd just like to remind you, as always, that if you haven't seen today's episode yet, make sure to check the top right-hand corner of your screen. There'll be a link there where you can go watch the video so we don't spoil it for you. Now that you've had time to do that, I'm going to fly on through the skull here and crash into it. And we're going to meet today's guest. It's Emos.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
So, I build with you all the time, but my viewers really don't know a whole lot about you or where you came from, what you do, so why don't you explain to them a little bit about yourself?
I'm a builder with the Knockscrew. Been here almost as long as Avon. About a month difference, I think. And, I don't know, I work on all kinds of stuff, but as of late, game show.
That's what everybody's working on as of late. Yeah, now, Emos is one of my favorite people I ever get to play Minecraft with, and we get into all kinds of shenanigans, but he's a really handy guy to have around because, you know, most people have certain styles that they can build in, other styles that they can't, and Emos is a jack of all trades. He'll do just about anything. Which is why sometimes I'll get an idea or somebody else will get an idea and it just, you know, nothing's taken off on it, so I'll go to Emos and I'll say, hey, here's this thing, can you do it? And he says, yeah, I'll do it, and I come back the next day and it's done. And this is one of those things that I gave to him. It was Outlawed. We had the idea, we had a team working on it. It sort of didn't pan out with the team working on it, so we went ahead and had him start from scratch, and probably a day or two later, this map was pretty much entirely finished.
I didn't start from scratch. I had this head.
That's fair. The skull was done beforehand by Skyo, and then everything else just happened right after that.
Yeah.
Look at this. I didn't see this sign. That's really good.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, should that be in here or not? And just leave it.
No,
I think this is Skyo's.
That's really good.
Sure.
That's really good. I like that a lot. So we are going to talk a little bit about the game, but before we do that, I'm going to have... I want you to just talk a little bit about how you actually went about making this map, like the process, the different tools you used, and go from there.
There's a lot of nerdy stuff then. Okay.
Oh, that's fine.
So, first I was using World Edit and like a percentage brush with like 40% air and 60% gravel to create the initial like canyon, like, how do you call it, landmass or whatever. And then just use voxel sniper to smooth it out, or like melt and fill brush. And then I think the thing's actually still here. How I got the colors is
it
pretty clever, I think. Yeah, it's still here.
Oh, there it is, yeah.
So I would select a region starting from the bottom. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're not here.
I'm here.
Okay. So I would select a region from the bottom and like throughout the whole map, and then just change the gravel to like, let's say, iron clay, and then I will expand the region by 1, and then do the next color, then expand the region by 2, and then the next color. And that's how all the colors throughout the map on each level are like same, or whatever.
Sure.
And the poles in the middle, this is just gravel with the same brush.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Pretty simple, and then you went to town just hand decorating everything else, right, with the buildings?
Yeah. A little, I don't know. Mayan Hunt originally, like, we didn't say, but this was supposed to be called Mayan Hunt 2, but then it didn't look very Mayan-like,
right.
so we called
Well, it started
Outlawed.
out, the code name was Mayan Hunt V2. We just knew that we wanted to do the same game, but instead of hiding, we wanted it to be a little bit more running and juking out tactics. So we came up with this idea instead.
Yeah, the Mayan Hunt didn't have much structures on it, but this map wouldn't work because mine had trees and mines, and you can hide on the trees.
Right.
Out of these little huts, houses, or whatever.
Yeah, and that's actually an interesting comparison to make. Is if you come back here and you look at what they're experiencing when they run out of the skull here, and we compare it to the way that Mayan Hunt worked. In Mayan Hunt, when they ran out the end of the little field there, they immediately ran into reeds, and they would disappear. Yeah. You could go, you know, 10 blocks into the reeds, you were practically invisible. So we needed something along those lines to be able to let the people disappear when they got out. And that was why we have this first wall here that passes through. It's protection
this was
for the runner.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wall we put afterwards, I think.
Yeah,
we thought that was done.
We had to add it in because we realized it was going to be an issue. Yeah. Good thing we picked up on it, though. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about how the map was made. Now I want to sort of move on to what happened on film night, because this game was actually a little bit more eventful than some of the other games, just due to what happened before it. So first of all, we let the teams explore out, right? We did the same thing in Mayan Hunt. We just wanted them to sort of run out around, get familiar with the level, so that way they weren't going into it blind, and it might make it a little bit more competitive. And so they were doing that, and I was over here in my redstone, and I realized that my Job commands, where he says his Job jokes, which are these 2 blocks here for yellow team's turn, and then the same on the other side for blue team's turn, I realized they were empty. And so I had to come up with some jokes on the spot, and I just sort of wanted to share where those jokes came from. I mentioned these in an earlier episode, actually. The first one was a long-running joke that we had about this game. When Nox recorded the Job voice for it, it sounded like this. Outlawed! Outlawed! Which sounds like he's either saying uplord or upload or uplawed or something. Something that definitely doesn't sound like outlawed. So I needed some inspiration for these jokes, so I decided I was going to go at him for that. Didn't it sound like I said uplord in the Decision Dome? I can't stop beating myself up over that. Just a way for a joke to sort of jaw back at him. And then the other thing that happened was he was explaining the huts that the people start out in over here. And the huts, you know, they're meant to be Indian-type tents, which are obviously called teepees. And Nox decided he was going to call them tikis. So that was why I added this joke in as your fun fact for the day. And nobody knew that I did either one of those, and the tech chat was laughing pretty hard when those happened. However, I wasn't laughing quite as hard because we actually had a couple of nasty bugs at the beginning of this game. The first bug that we had was a result of I was trying to fix a different game that was on the grid for that day, and I had the timer up on the right hand side of the screen when I was trying to fix that, and the timer spawns itself when you do like this initial map setup here. And when it spawned itself like that, we had actually, you can see the game is already starting itself here, because we had it set up to automatically start. And when we had it set up on there, it was just, there was a random armor stand that was sitting on the ground. If I get one out real quick, I might be able to show what it did. Okay, right, so let's just say there was this random armor stand here. It did this to me on the sideboard when the game started. Basically, I was trying to use a armor stand as a memory cell for a different game, and I was trying to put the score on the timer because the timer was already going to be up for that game. I realized quickly after it was going to work, and I deleted the timer off the side of the screen, but I forgot to clear that out. So that was very unfortunate that that happened. I was actually able to stop the game, though, by breaking one of these repeaters in here and wiping this timer off the board. So, right, I get this timer wiped off the board, right? Let's go ahead and just pretend it's off. Set display, sidebar. Okay, so it's gone. And the game goes ahead and starts again, and as soon as the timer started, because the team had crossed onto the tongue inside of the skull, the timer counted down to 0 minutes negative 59 seconds, and then stopped working. And that was due to an interesting bug that there was no... Well, it was unlucky that I didn't catch it beforehand. Let's just call it that. Basically, the timer that I use, which I may or may not have released the video that explains that yet, the timer can count in either direction, right? And so here it's showing you the timer. It's showing you it's in timer mode 1, right? Now there's two timer modes. There's 1 and there's -1. 1 counts up, which you need for this episode, and -1 counts down, which is bad when it's at 0 because then it goes negative. And basically what happened was this timer mode command here had an extra thing in here from my copy-paste document that said something along the lines of counts up, like that. And it was just sitting like that, so when it went to try to change the mode, it didn't work because it wasn't a legitimate command anymore. And I didn't catch that during testing of the game because the last time we had used the timer, when we were testing it, it was counting up as well, so it didn't mess it up. But this time it had counted down previously, which broke it. So that time we already had the runners out chasing them. Nothing had happened yet. They hadn't even got out of the skull. We had to call them back a second time, get them all back and reset, and then they were good to go, and it worked perfectly on the third time. But it's just kind of funny sometimes how you know, there's always going to be unexpected bugs that happen during filming, either due to oversights by myself or anybody else that's doing redstone for us at the time, or just, you know, human error, random chance. You know, sometimes people do things that we don't think of and they can break our games. And a big thing that ensures that our film nights go smoothly is when we make sure that that we know what everything does, so if we have to fix something, we can fix it quickly. Okay, so now that we've got all the behind-the-scenes stuff out of the way, let's talk about what actually happened during the episode. So, we had the Ungentleman versus Grenade Train. Ungentleman is up in the series 1-0 after a ridiculous come-from-behind victory in Castle. And Grenade Train is trying to avoid defeat. So they were the runners after the coin toss. I can't remember who won or lost or what they decided. But the Ungentlemen go running out, and they're just trying to get 4 minutes. That's their goal, right? And so they run. They manage to make it entirely to the other side of the map, more or less completely unseen. And we've got some really good hiding spots. We've got one guy who's up in here who can really only get spotted by that back tunnel. We've got another guy who's up in a house somewhere, and then their third guy was like back to where... Was he right around in here? No, it wasn't there, was it?
No. He was here.
He was on the side of that cliff. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the play.
A really outrageous series of jumps. Like, to pull that off in pressure like that is just amazing. And like, sitting here, you know, it is rather open from that back part, but the way that they were positioned, there was no way he was going to get spotted until last, standing here.
It was perfect positioning for this game. I don't know how they figure it out on the fly or whatever, but this guy here spots all of them, like 2 of them coming this way, like they went under him, and then one guy was wrapping around, and then he tells his the other players like they're coming, and then he goes and runs back to spawn, like back to the starting area. That's an amazing play there.
Really, really smart way to play this game. And that was actually the way we were trying to play this game in testing as well, was sort of get to a spot where you can let the other guys go behind you, and then double back and chill somewhere back here where it's really hard for them to see you. There's a lot of good places where you can get up just high enough where you're in a, you know, pretty good spot. And like that's another thing, to be fair, like I was really surprised that neither team tried to just stall a guy right under the skull at the beginning. That was the strategy that we used in testing a few times as well, and it seemed to work out pretty good. You know, you can get, well, can you? Thought you could get up in here. Maybe I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
You can.
Do I just stink? No, I'm just awful. And, okay, maybe I'm not awful. Anyways, it was surprising they didn't carry out that strategy.
Yeah, but it's also risky. Maybe, I don't know. They didn't check.
Yeah, that was the thing, was they didn't look back. And speaking of that, you know, Grenade Train gets to run second. They just have to clear 3 minutes and 44 seconds, I believe is the time to beat. And coming out of the skull, one of their team members got confused about which way he was going to go.
Up king!
Don't worry.
No, you went the same way I did!
Oh, he decided to turn around. Ven has made a very controversial decision.
Totally
and he's going to be having to run straight off the bat. He cannot hide now. And he gets cut off on the other side. Not looking good for Ven, as he's probably going to be the first one to get taken down, and arrows are flying up behind him, but Oakley B hits him into the water, and no, it's it, that's it. Oakley B takes him down
He's over here.
with an arrow.
They got crossed up because they wanted to split up, and he decided to turn around, and he just got picked off at the beginning. And you would think that that would have given his teammates some time to find some better spots, but man, it was a series of unfortunate events, wasn't it?
No, it's like the other two guys were stuck in water somehow as the hunters were coming out.
Right.
It's like the worst place to be in this map is in water.
Yeah, it slows you down so much, and there's just no cover at all. And the two of them managed to get all the way to the back of the map, which isn't necessarily as advantageous as being in the middle of the map, because there's less ways to run away when you get caught. And that was what happened, was he got caught, he got spotted, he went to run this way, and you'll see him in the episode, he stops, and he turns around. And in the tech chat, we were like, what is he doing? Why did he turn around? He's gonna die. And one of the other cameras said, because the last guy is at the other end of that tunnel, and he didn't want to lead him right into him. So they at least, that was the one sort of heads up play that Grenade Train did make this episode, is they realized the geometry of the map, that this tunnel only had one place to come out, and that was on the other side. And so they realized that they needed to not bottleneck themselves, but at the same time he turned right around and died. And then the guy at the end of the tunnel realized what was going on as well and tried to turn around. He had a guy right behind him, and all of a sudden, boom, 2-0 clean sweep.
That was like really unfortunate for Grenade Train.
Yeah, it was a series of unfortunate, perhaps even unlucky events, but another thing to sort of admire is the killer instinct of Ungentlemen, right? Same thing that happened in Castle, they found a weak spot and exploited it. Same thing here, they had their opportunity, they didn't miss, and they really did use strong teamwork to bring down Grenade Train and put them through to the next round of the tournament.
Yeah. Ungens were like insane, and it's like, I don't know. This play here was the highlight.
Definitely one of my picks for top plays of the season so far. There were a lot of close matchups in the first round of the bracket. This was not one of them. It was, the first game had you on the edge of your seat, but this game was just absolutely no contest. It was bing bang boom and done. Exciting though to see a team pull off a strategy like that as swiftly as they did. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we've talked about the behind the scenes of this map, how it got made, and also how much fun it was to watch it on the night of. So thanks a lot, Emos, for coming on the show, and thanks for building Outlawed for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to having you back on the show here in a couple weeks. We'll see.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So until next time, I've been Avondale. Thanks for watching.
I understood all of that, by the way.
Good.
Timer this, I understand that.
Yeah. Well, before we get back into it, scoreboard, players, reset. Oh my god, I have to type this. No, I'll be back in like 2 minutes when I'm done typing that number. E554B5. 5D. This is what I had to do that night to fix it, by the way.
Well, I need to type the whole UUID menu or whatever.
Yeah, because if I don't, it'll reset the rest of my scoreboard memory and screw everything else up.
GG.
All trades, he'll do just about anything. Which is why sometimes I'll get an idea or somebody else will get an idea and it just, you know, nothing's taken off on it, so I'll go to Emos and I'll say, hey, here's this thing, can you do it? And he says, yeah, I'll do it, and I come back the next day and it's done. And this is one of those things that I gave to him, working on as of late. Yeah, now, Emos is one of my favorite people I ever get to play Minecraft with, and we get into all kinds of shenanigans, but he's a really handy guy to have around because, you know, most people have certain styles that they can build in, other styles that they can't, and Emos is a jack of all. There where you can go watch the video so we don't spoil it for you. Now that you've had time to do that, I'm going to fly on through the skull here and crash into it. And we're going to meet today's guest. It's Emos.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
So, I build with you all the time, but my viewers really don't know a whole lot about you or where you came from, what you do, so why don't you explain to them a little bit about yourself?
I'm a builder with the Nox crew. Been here almost as long as Avon. About a month difference, I think. And I don't know, I work on all kinds of stuff, but as of late, game show.
That's what everybody's working. Hey guys, it's Avondale, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Walls, where I take you behind the walls of the Nox Crew game show. I'd just like to remind you, as always, that if you haven't seen today's episode yet, make sure to check the top right-hand corner of your screen. There'll be a link